VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And welcome to Crosstalk here on the VCY America Network. My name is Jim Schneider, and folks, we're going to be discussing a matter that, well, it seems it was not too long ago that we were just dealing with this. There was defeat that happened at that time, but it's resurfaced once again. We're going to be talking about LOST, the Law of the Sea Treaty. With us today is Phyllis Schlafly, the founder and president of Eagle Forum. She's a national leader of the conservative movement and is the author or editor of some 20 books. She's an attorney, admitted to the practice of law in Illinois, Missouri, Washington, D.C., and the U.S. Supreme Court. She's involved in daily radio broadcasting. Her written column is printed in some 100 newspapers. She puts out a monthly newsletter, the Phyllis Schlafly Report. Phyllis, thank you for joining us today here on Crosstalk.
Well, thank you for having me, Tim. It's always good to talk to you.
And what do you do in your spare time with all that going on?
Well, politics is my hobby, so I'm not trying to get away from it.
Well, Phyllis, there is a battle that's going on once again. We have seen defeat in the past, but it's coming to the forefront again that really empowers the United Nations. It's called LOST, or the Law of the Sea Treaty. Tell us about it.
Well, we thought we got rid of it in the Reagan administration because it was one of the first things Ronald Reagan did when he moved into the White House in 1981. And it had been laboriously negotiated by our State Department, who's usually not on our side. And he read it, and he thought it was bad news for the United States. It's just giving a lot of international powers to some busybody global bureaucrats, I think in Geneva or Jamaica or wherever they want to have a plush resort. And I noted that former UN Ambassador John Bolton warned us recently that the Law of the Sea Treaty is even more dangerous now than when Ronald Reagan rejected it in the 1980s. And the reason is because China is emerging as a major power, and this would give some points to China that they don't deserve, constrain our naval activities in the South China Sea, and do nothing to resolve China's very enormous maritime territorial claims. So it would give China the excuse to deny our ships access to what China claims is its private property, a big hunk of the sea.
Well, no pun intended, but some say LOST is just going to put us on a more even keel with countries around the world. Is that true or false?
We don't want to be on an even keel. We want military and naval superiority, and that's the best way. We've known since George Washington. He said to secure the peace, make it known that we are at all times ready for war. And that's we used to have military superiority in our Republican platform. I'm trying to put it back in this year in Tampa. But the United States and the rest of the world is better off if the U.S. is the number one superpower, and our Navy is able to patrol the seas and make sure they're safe. And we don't want to be constrained by a lot of anti-American bureaucrats who hole up in Jamaica or Hamburg or Geneva or wherever they are.
Well, you mentioned Ronald Reagan, and I believe tomorrow is the anniversary of his death, and he did reject this Law of the Sea Treaty from very early in his administration. He had appointed you to one of his commissions. You met Ronald Reagan. Tell us more about his heart as to why this was such a objection for him and for the United States at that time.
Well, Ronald Reagan believed in America, in the core of him. He just believed in America and believed we should be the best. And we have the most freedom and the highest standard of living, and we've earned it, we've worked for it, and he believes in keeping it. Now, locking ourselves into some UN treaty really means giving away some of our sovereignty. It means ceding some of powers over us and over our properties to an international treaty. Now, for example, this treaty would give control, I think it's 6/7 of the world's surface, to these bureaucrats set up under the Law of the Sea Treaty.
You said 6/7 of the world's surface?
Well, math isn't my strong suit, so don't hold me to the exact.
But you're saying a majority portion.
Oh, yes, a super majority.
Uh-huh.
And they would be able to control it. Now, why they want it is there are a lot of riches at the bottom of the sea, all kinds of minerals and riches. It's not just fish, it's minerals. And they want to have the United States use our wealth to go down and gather these riches and then give the control to this international tribunal set up under the Law of the Sea, and they can parcel it out to their friendly dictators around the rest of the world. Because one of the purposes of these UN treaties is to reduce our sovereignty. Another purpose is to transfer our wealth to other countries of the world that haven't worked for it. And that's true of all the UN treaties.
Ronald Reagan.
So Ronald Reagan was right in saying no and rejecting it, and we just ought to and for all those times that it was brought up since Reagan, we have rejected it, and I hope we'll reject it again.
What is causing the resurgence of this treaty right now?
Obama is a globalist. He is so very eager to put us subservient to various types of global organizations. And there are a number of them. Every UN treaty sets up a commission of so-called experts who are going to tell us what to do. Now, whether you're talking about the Treaty on Children or the Treaty on Women or the Treaty on the Sea or the Treaty on Guns or you name it. Any UN treaty cuts a piece of our sovereignty out and makes us subject to some committee of, quote, experts, close quote, to tell us what to do and how to change our laws, how to obey what these bureaucrats decide. And we don't want to do that. We want to run our own country.
Now, we understand also with the Senator Lugar of Indiana just was defeated in the primary in Indiana, defeated by a new up-and-rising Tea Party-backed individual. He is one that's actually been promoting this Law of the Sea Treaty, isn't he?
That's right. Senator Lugar is a Rhodes Scholar, and he never saw a UN treaty that he didn't like. And he's a globalist, and there are just quite an organization and pockets of people in this country who want to make us subject to world government. And they don't use that term. They know it's very popular. They usually say global governance, or they say these various UN treaties. But all of these UN treaties set up a way that they can rule against us, like the World Trade Organization. That's a bunch of UN bureaucrats in Geneva, and they've got the colossal impudence to tell us we have to repeal some of our laws that they don't like. And our Constitution says that Congress has control of international commerce with foreign nations, and the idea of obeying some bunch of bureaucrats in Geneva is just not the American way. We shouldn't put up with it.
Phyllis Schlafly is our guest here today on Crosstalk. And Phyllis, one of the things that just really baffled me is former Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott. As a senator, he was opposed to Lost. In just a moment, I'm going to play a clip from a 2007 press conference that was posted on the Heritage Foundation's website regarding this treaty. But now he is lobbying for ratification of it. I'm going to have you comment on this, but first let's hear what Trent Lott had to say just 5 years ago.
It was a bad law then, and it is today. I saw one article that described it as if you want the UN on steroids, you want the Law of the Sea Treaty. I just don't believe this is a good policy, a good treaty for our country. And with all the other things we do need to be doing, I don't think we should take this up. Now, let me tell you why I'm opposed to it. First of all, I am absolutely convinced it undermines U.S. sovereignty. Secondly, I also think that it would create a huge UN bureaucracy, which would put a number of our entities, including the private sector and the military, in my opinion, at the mercy of the UN bureaucracy. Now, once again, of course, the United States would pay for 25% of the cost of this new entity, but we would not get 25% of the representation on the various panels or groups that would be created by the Law of the Sea Conference. I believe it would undermine U.S. military and intelligence operations, and I believe that it would be a huge problem in terms of navigational rights.
Well, Phyllis, sir, we have Trent Lott just saying 5 years ago, I mean, he almost echoed the very reasons why you said we should be concerned about this. Now he is actually lobbying for it. He's come on the other side of the ledger. What's brought about this change in Trent Lott?
Well, when he was a senator, he was our friend. He was a conservative. He stood up for America and for Reagan's policies. And then he's no longer in the Senate, so he was out of a job. So he's got a job now as a high-paid lobbyist, and he's lobbying for the globalists. I don't know which one they are, but they're people who really want to get us involved in these international organizations and taking orders from them. And he's, I'm sure, getting a better salary than he got when he was in the Senate. So that, the older I get, Tim, the more I think. Follow the money answers most of the problems we don't understand.
Well, how sad when we have to put our values up for sale. Phyllis, Leon Panetta, Secretary of Defense, has declared this. He says the time has come for the Senate to ratify this treaty. Also, we understand that there's a coalition of 3 groups that have really come together to ratify this. The U.S. Navy, the multinational oil companies led by Shell, and the radical environmentalist lawyers. Why is it, when we're talking about giving up sovereignty, that we would see the Secretary of Defense and the U.S. Navy back something like this?
Well, we believe in civilian control of the military, and I would discount anything the Navy said, because the Navy has to say whatever the Commander-in-Chief tells them to say. They can't have a policy that's different from Obama's, and so they are simply echoing what the President says. And we've inculcated in everybody that we have civilian control of the military, so the Navy can't go off and tell us what they think is the truth. This is contrary to what the President is saying. Now, the oil companies, they maybe are bent out of shape because Obama won't let them drill in a lot of American sources, land and water. And maybe they think they'll get a better chance in foreign countries. I don't know exactly. But the environmentalist lawyers, it's pretty clear. The Law of the Sea Treaty sets up a way, some kind of a semi-pseudo-judicial system, so they can sue the United States.
Phyllis, let me have you pause right there because we're in a break, and what you're about to say I know is vitally important about these radical environmental lawyers, and so we'll come back to that right after the break. You're listening to Crosstalk here on VCY America. Phyllis Schlafly is with us. We're talking about the Law of the Sea Treaty, which, it's raising its ugly head up from the Loch Ness and is making its way through the legislative process. We'll be right back.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, popular creation speaker with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, why did God create the vast variety of carnivores and prey? Is God sadistic?
Not at all, Chris. Those who ask this question expose their ignorance of what the Bible has to say about creation. In Scripture, we see that God created things very good in the beginning. There was no death, no carnivorous relationships. Everything ate only plants. But Adam rebelled against God's authority, incurring the wages of sin, which is death, and all creation suffered. Soon some animals began to engage in carnivorous activity. This was not the Creator's design. This was the ruination of creation due to man's choice. We see carnivorous activity, death, and bloodshed today, but it's not the stuff of evolution. It's the result of man's rejection of God's authority in creation. It all goes back to Genesis.
Thanks for tuning in to Back to Genesis.
You're listening to Crosstalk here on the VCY American Network. Phyllis Schlafly is our guest, and we're talking about the Law of the Sea Treaty. Yes, again, the United Nations Treaty, rearing itself up through a Senate committee. We'll get more into some of those details in a moment, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. But we're talking about this triad, this partnership, in essence, that the three groups that are working to ratify this, the U.S. Navy, who, of course, as Phyllis pointed out, is under the guidance of the Commander-in-Chief. We have the multinational oil companies that are being led by Shell Oil, and some of the literature that we read indicated to us that oil companies are going to have some lesser fees that they'll have to pay other than what the U.S. is requiring now for them, but they see great minerals and resources available to them. But also the radical environmentalist lawyers, I'll get that word out. Phyllis, you just began to talk about this as far as the action that can actually come against the United States by these environmentalists. Elaborate further on that, if you would.
The Law of the Sea Treaty sets up some sort of a pseudo-judicial apparatus, and the environmentalist lawyers are licking their chops with the possibility of suing the United States over some of our environmental sins. And they see a great opportunity there to make a lot of money, and I think that's why they're for it. And of course, the oil companies are they think they're going to get something at a lower cost, but no way. The Law of the Sea bureaucrats are going to tax anything that the Americans bring up from the bottom of the sea. And I think you can be sure the U.S. is going to get the short end of whatever is happening. Because the real purpose behind most of these UN treaties is to transfer our wealth to other countries of the world. Obama and the other globalists think it just plain isn't fair that we have this high standard of living and the other countries don't. And it's energy that makes it that way. You know, Jim, recently I saw a picture in the New York Times, so it must be so. They had a picture of of an African woman who was doing her laundry in the river. Now, I don't want to do my laundry in the river. I like all the conveniences of washing machines and dryers and the goodies that we have that have made our homes so pleasant. And we've worked for them and we've earned them. And the idea that there's something unfair about that is ridiculous. If other countries want to have the goodies we have, they can adopt our form of government. But they're not entitled to steal our wealth from us in order to make their dictators live high on the hog.
Now, there's a couple groups that we're learning about with this Law of the Sea Treaty, and tell us what you know about them. One is called the International Seabed Authority in Jamaica. How do they stand to profit from this?
Well, that's the controlling group set up under the Law of the Sea, the International Seabed Authority. And they've got some plush quarters there in Jamaica, and they're the ones who are going to be in charge. You can imagine the enormous amount of property and wealth that this treaty would give to these UN bureaucrats. It almost blows your mind.
Senator John Kerry is arguing, he's saying, well, the U.S. is going to possess a permanent veto power over this international body that controls these royalty payments. Is there any truth to that? Does that give us any assurance, any laurels that we can rest upon?
Well, I don't think that's in the treaty. I would very much doubt that. Most of what these UN groups want to do is by a process called consensus, which is a way to keep us from vetoing anything. And so I don't know, but at any rate, why should we submit what we're doing to some bunch of foreigners in Jamaica, where we have basically the same vote as communist Cuba?
The other group we're hearing about is the International Tribunal in Hamburg, Germany.
Well, that's where these lawyers would sue us. Wow. And again, it's unlikely that we'd even have anybody on the court, and we never get a fair deal. I think the World Trade Organization has ruled against the U.S. in something like 21 out of 26 cases. And we live in a world, Jim, where most of the rest of the world either doesn't like us or is envious of us or wants to steal from us, and it's up to our elected officials to defend the security of the United States of America.
Phyllis Schlafly is with us here today from Eagle Forum. Phyllis, when a hearing was held on this treaty May 23rd, and we were talking just about a week and a half ago, Senator DeMint warned of the left's unfair maneuver in which only proponents of this were slated to testify. What do you think of that open debate?
Well, I'm not surprised. The Democrats are running the Senate. That's Harry Reid, and they think they can do that and get by with it. The majority party, that's the Democrats in the Senate, and it's only the Senate vote, and the vote on a treaty is 2/3 present and voting, and so actually they could vote to ratify a treaty with 3 votes yes and 2 votes no.
Are there 34 senators who would step forward and say no to the lost treaty, or are we?
We've got about 30 who've signed on, but we need some more. So if there are anybody from the state listening to this program who can get your senator to sign on to be opposed to the Law of the Sea Treaty, that would be extremely helpful.
Folks, the phone number to Washington to your U.S. Senator is 202-224-3121. I find it rather shocking that only 30 out of 100 senators would say no to the loss of U.S. sovereignty in this regard. Again, the number to your U.S. Senator, and by the way, folks, you have 2 of them, is 202-224-3121. Phyllis, as this issue was before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee last month, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton told the committee that the opposition to this treaty is, quote, based in ideology and mythology, not in facts, evidence, or the consequences of our continuing failure to accede to the treaty. What's this mythology she's referring to?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what mythology is. Now, I would accept the attack about ideology. It is the ideology that we believe in one nation under God. We believe in our United States of America, and we think it is the job of our elected officials to protect our independence, our freedom, and our way of life. And they have no business bargaining away in these UN treaties to some little group of bureaucrats on which we might have 1 out of 25 votes.
Folks, if you'd like to get online today with Phyllis Schlafly, if you have a question you'd like to ask about this Law of the Sea Treaty or the matter of the process of where it's at right now, your concerns, your questions pertaining to it, our number 800-733-9829, 1-800-733-9829. Phyllis, give us a word about Eagle Forum.
Eagle Forum is a national conservative pro-family organization. It's run by volunteers. I'm a volunteer, and all of our state presidents are volunteers. We have a small office in Washington, in St. Louis, where we try to alert people to what's coming up. You can sign up for our email alerts. Our website is really tremendous, eagleforum.org. You can get lots more articles about the Law of the Sea Treaty and other timely topics. eagleforum.org.
That's eagleforum.org. And Phyllis, what are some of the hot issues you're following right now at Eagle Forum?
We certainly encourage people to vote for the defunding of Planned Parenthood. That was, I'm sorry that bill didn't pass the other day, but at any rate...
Are you talking about the gender selection abortions?
Yes, it's just absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
I saw that. I hope everybody has seen that video, because it makes you wonder, is this the United States of America, or are we living in communist China?
Yeah, and it was good to see the White House Press Secretary Jay Carney squirm as he tried to rationalize why President Obama, who says he's so against gender discrimination, would allow the purposeful killing of baby girls in the womb. And he was opposed to this legislation, and shame on the legislators who would not stand up for the decency decency and morality that would be supported by this legislation. I mean, it's horrendous, Phyllis, that they purposely would see and the videos from Planned Parenthood undercover to see that they become party to purposefully killing a baby because of the fact that she is a girl.
Yes, it was so depressing. I was just depressed all the rest of the afternoon. And Obama tried to structure his campaign for re-election by claiming that the Republicans were carrying on a war against women. Well, it's Planned Parenthood and the abortionists are carrying on a war against women. They're trying to allow people to kill a female fetus. It's just shocking.
Let's go to.
So we're in lots of these international issues, and of course the spending issues and parents' rights issues. We're just in all kinds of issues.
Let's go to Appleton. You're on the air, David. Thank you for calling.
Hi, thank you, Phyllis, for taking my call. And I just want to state that I am a Democrat. I am a conservative Democrat, and I'm a devout Christian, a Catholic, and a father of 7 daughters. So,
David, what's your point today?
To back up a little bit on what you were talking about earlier, the United States being a supreme power, wanted to get your take on what Eisenhower warned us about the industrial military complex. And I'll take your answer off the air. Thank you.
Well, at the end of World War II, we were clearly the superior military power, and that is what brings peace for the United States and peace for the world. We have to be strong enough to have any enemy know in advance that they're not going to get by with attacking us. That phrase by Eisenhower, I think, is rather unfortunate because it was the connection between the industry and the military that enabled us to win World War II. When we were attacked and got into World War II, all of a sudden our industrial plants, our auto plants, and everything else was able to convert almost overnight into building military weapons. And it's unfortunate the way we've lost millions of manufacturing jobs. We couldn't do that again at the present time. So it's very important that we have the industry, the manufacturing that is able to convert overnight into weapons if we need them.
To Lake Delton. Carl, you're on the air.
Yeah, what we need to get through to these senators and congressmen is that if they do vote for this, they will be out of a job. And we as Christians, you need to unite on that factor, and the fact that when they pass treaties and the Obamacare and all that stuff, we need to tell those people that if they vote for this, they're going to be out of a job.
Thank you for your call. Phyllis, one-third of the U.S. Senate...
I say that's right, and I should have mentioned also that Eagle Forum has a PAC, a Political Action Committee, and we are working very hard to elect the right people in November.
We're going to take a quick 60-second break, coming back to more of your calls. We have a couple open lines right now at 800-733-9829. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America.
Technology continues to expand the ways we can send and receive audio files, and the Crosstalk program is no exception. The most current way to hear Crosstalk is live at 2 p.m. Central, repeated at 8 p.m. Central on the VCY America Network, or on the internet at crosstalkamerica.com or from Shoutcast, or use the VCY America app for your iPhone or Android. There are MP3 files of the most recent programs available at crosstalkamerica.com. But sometimes it makes more sense to have a program on CD to listen again, or to give to a friend or relative, or even to play for a church gathering. Order Crosstalk CDs for a donation of $6 each by calling 1-800-729-9829. Just mention the date or dates of the programs you need. Or mail your request to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. And again, that phone number for Crosstalk CDs is 1-800-729-9829. That's toll free, 1-800-729-9829.
The Law of the Sea Treaty, once again, on the, somewhat front burner here through the United States Senate, as a hearing was just held within the last 10 days by the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, of which they brought forth, and this was brought forth, accusations by Senator DeMint that they only brought forth proponents of this to testify before the committee. Phyllis Schlafly is our guest today, founder and president of Eagle Forum. Phyllis, do we have any information as to when this might come forth in the United States Senate for a vote?
Well, I suppose Harry Reid is good at vote counting, and I think he'll bring it up when he thinks he's got enough votes to pass it. So that could be any day. It could be another week. Could be two more weeks. We just don't know.
Phone calls are critical to U.S. senators at this time?
Oh, absolutely, because there are a lot of senators. You know, Jim, I heard one member of Congress say, or one of his staff say, that he just votes the way the calls come in the day of the vote.
Huh. Wow. Well,
so
folks,
I think a lot of them are really interested, and they don't want to go out on a limb and about something that's very unpopular.
The number to your senators is 202-224-3121. Let's go next to Tim, who's on the road. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm really interested in your talk show, and I just came back from North Dakota, and I have kind of like a comment and a question. I went up there, and there was a lot of people that were looking for work, and I heard on the TV that the big oil companies, they're in the Balklands of North Dakota, come to Williston. There's a lot of work. And people came from all over the United States to go to work and living in their cars because there's no place to live. And they locked down the town. You can't park anywhere. You can't go to a park, campground. Everything's shut down. You can't park anywhere. So basically, people drive there and turn around and go home. And I was just wondering, why is that the big oil companies advertise all these jobs, and then nobody's there to work, and the rent is so high, it's $3,000 a month for one bed.
Well, that's not quite part of the Law of the Sea Treaty, only the connection, I guess, with some of the oil situations. I don't know if you have a comment on this or not, Phyllis.
No, I really don't. I don't know about that case, and I think the unemployment is a shocking thing at the present time. I think it's due to overspending. The people are unsure about what the future's going to be, and so that's why they're not hiring. And I think government has made all kinds of mistakes, and I'm just not familiar with that mistake, but I believe what the guy says.
Fort Pierce, Florida. John, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi. I'm looking for a job right now. I think I might join the Coast Guard. And do you think that would be a good idea with it? If this treaty goes through, will it mess up my job in the Coast Guard?
Well, it might limit where your boats could go. For example, one of the effects of the treaty, we think, is to allow China to have control over an enormous portion of the South Pacific. And we're better off, and the world is better off, if our Navy ships can go practically anywhere. Keep open the Straits of Hormuz, where the major part of the oil comes through, and the South Pacific and everywhere. The U.S. Navy's doing a good job of reporting keeping the sea lanes open, and I'm sure the Coast Guard's part of that. And I would rely on our own defenses, not on somebody making some decision in Hamburg or Jamaica.
Thank you, John. To Jefferson, Wisconsin. Jeff, you're on the air.
Hi, Phyllis. I'm sure you're aware of the recent Bilderberg meeting in West Virginia, and I'm sure that they discussed getting this treaty ratified here. What do you think about that elite group getting together? Oh, and one other thing, you do know that Mitch Daniels, our presumptive vice presidential pick, was at that meeting. What have you got to say about that group?
Well, the Bilderbergers is a group, and the thing that makes them so fascinating is they're terribly secret. And when something's secret, people are suspicious, and I don't blame them. Mm-hmm. And they put up tremendous security all around to make sure nobody gets in. They're the people who believe in globalism, who want. They don't have particular patriotism to any country. They want a global market, and they're always for the internationalist goals and legislation. And it's a training ground for a lot of people who later turn up in big jobs in our government and elsewhere. So it's kind of an interesting group to watch just because of its secrecy. Yes, they're meeting in Virginia, and you will not be invited.
And, folks, we've got a couple open lines, 800-733-9829 to Navarre, Florida. Rick, you're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon. As always, when the Democrats control the Congress, they will vote in lockstep on this issue as they do on everything else. So the key to defeating it, of course, is to get everybody on the Republican side of the aisle to vote against it. And 34 votes are needed, so we can only afford to lose 6 or 7 Republicans. Can Mr. Schafly tell us, is there a resource where we can go to see who's lined up on the correct side of this, on the Republican side of the aisle? And could you possibly give us some inside info as to who the nervous Nellies might be on the Republican side that we could put some additional telephone pressure on?
Well, that's a very good question, and I'm sorry I don't have the real answer for you. But somebody has made up that list. I've seen the list. I just can't remember the names. They've got about 30 of the Republicans, but that isn't quite enough. And there are a few more that could be worked on, and maybe there's some patriotic Democrats, 1 or 2, who could be invited. The whole thing is a bad deal. Ronald Reagan was right to reject it, and all the subsequent Senates since the 1980s were right to reject it.
And one more question, if I may.
Rick, right before you ask that question, let me quickly also respond. I do have a press release that did come forth from Concerned Women for America. And in that, they do list the senators who did sign Senator DeMint's letter to oppose lost and have gone on record as saying that they will. And they have mentioned Senator Barroso, Blunt, Boozman, Burr, Chambliss, Coates, Coburn, Cornyn, Crapo, DeMint, Hatch, Haven, Inhofe, Johnson of Wisconsin, Kyle, Lee, Moran, Paul, Risch, Roberts, Rubio, Sessions, Shelby, Thune, Vitter, and Wicker. And they were encouraging at that time, again, this goes back to May 22nd, calls to other of their colleagues, Senator Ayotte, Brown, Cochran, Toomey, Heller, Grassley, Johans, Enzi, Isaacson, and Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, those are the ones to work on, right?
Right. That's who they were suggesting that needed some encouragement to sign on to Senator DeMint's letter.
Senator Grassley would be a good one to ask because he's usually a good guy. Most of what he does is fine, and he ought to be on the right side, which is voting no.
The other quick question I had was, do you think they'll try to bring this to a vote quickly, or will they wait until the lame duck session after the elections in November?
Well, that's Harry Reid's personal choice, and I'm not a mind reader, but I do know that lame duck sessions are very dangerous. All kinds of bad things happen in lame duck sessions, and they want to get it through because really Barack Obama doesn't have any foreign policy credentials, and they think if they give him this treaty, it's kind of a little feather in his cap for a foreign policy credential. Of course, I think it's a black mark, but if you got the media with you, you can play it a different way.
Thank you for the call here, Rick. Our number 800-733-9829, 800-733-9829 to speak with Phyllis Schlafly. Let's go next to Victoria, Texas. Jacob, you're on the air.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Mrs. Schlafly. How you doing, ma'am? I can't hear y'all, so I guess...
Yeah, hello. I said hello.
Yes, go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, hello. I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you for a second over here. Say, I was watching Fox News, and I've seen Dick Morris come out speaking, about this globalism and being right about it a lot of times. I was watching him on Fox News on Hannity, and he says they're going to slip it through in the lame duck, and they're going to also this Law of the Sea Treaty, and they're also going to push the ICC, International Criminal Court. And I was reading Brandon House's website last night, And this new rule, this new globalist rule for the Internet, it's going to be voted on in December, and there's nothing we can do to stop the vote, and we can't veto it. And there's two choices we have. We can either we can opt out of it and be balkanized, or we can sign on to it and be ruled by freedom-loving countries like Cuba and Venezuela and Iran and North Korea and Russia. And, well, I don't know about North Korea, but you know where I'm going. Anyway, that's about all I have to say today. I don't want to get too fired up.
Well, we do need to be fired up about treaty because it's bad news all the way. And yes, I am worried about the lame duck session. They can do whatever they want, but we want to keep the pressure on and let the senators know we want them to vote no.
There's another thing that Dick Morris mentioned, and I think they're going to try to do it. You know how they put in that socialist labor leader at the IR or whatever? And anyway, I'm thinking another recess appointment. I really, there's no rule they won't break, and there's no tradition they won't smash.
I wonder if you saw the list of about 20 unconstitutional actions that Barack Obama has taken, a list made up by 9 state attorneys general. This was the most remarkable memo that was released by these elected officials, and there's been almost no publicity about it, but you can find it on my website, eagleforum.org.
Isn't it also like over 100 executive orders he signed?
He has done, I don't know what the number is, but he's done lots of them, and I'm just writing my column this week on another one that is purporting to harmonize our regulations with other countries around the world. And we don't want to be harmonized with anybody else. We like the United States.
Yeah. Only harmony I want with the Word of God and His promises. That's just about it. Anyway.
Good for you.
Thank you for your call here today. Appreciate it, Jacob. And let's see, to Ron in Pensacola, Florida. You're on the air.
Yes. Thank you for what you're doing, Ms. Schafly. And I called Senator Nelson's office here in Florida, and I said, tell Senator Nelson that if any senator that votes for this bill ought to be brought up on treason charges. And I really feel that way. These people are not doing anything that would benefit this nation when they signed on to this treaty.
I think that's right. It's anti-American. It cuts back on our sovereignty. We shouldn't do it. It's a bad deal, as Ronald Reagan said in the 1980s, and it's still true, only more so. And so thank you for telling Senator Nelson. Keep telling him.
Thanks for your call here today. We have a break coming upon us, and we'll come back to more phone calls here in the final segment if you'd like to get on board. Have a couple open lines here, 800-733-9829. If you call right away, 800-733-9829. Phyllis Schlafly with us from Eagle Forum. We'll come back in just 1 minute. This is Crosstalk on VCY America.
For the Worldview Weekend Minute, I'm Brandon House. Continuing today on our list of 20 characteristics of false teachers. Number 12, false teachers have heard the gospel but reject it. False teachers have heard the gospel but reject it. 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 20 through 21 speaks to this. For if, after they have escaped the pollutions of the world, through the knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, that's the gospel, they are again entangled in them and overcome, the latter end is worse for them than the beginning. What's this speaking of? Well, you have some people who believe they are Christians, like these false teachers profess to be. They maybe clean up their life, get a Christian television program, but they go right back to their sin, just as the scriptures say, a dog returning to his vomit. They have heard the gospel, but they have not repented of their sins, placed their faith and trust in Christ because they are false teachers. And so they have a form of godliness, but reject and deny the power thereof. Another characteristic of false teachers.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America, and today we're talking about the Law of the Sea Treaty, known as LOST. Yes, folks, you've heard about this before. It had been rejected way back at the time of Ronald Reagan, and it has come up a few times. It's back up again. Had a hearing just a week and a half ago in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, in which they only brought forth people to testify in favor of this. And now it is, as our guest today, Phyllis Schlafly, pointed out, Harry Reid is counting votes. All he needs is to have 2/3 vote by the Senate to ratify a treaty. It does not go before Congress. It is the Senate that ratifies treaties. It is imperative for you to contact your own senators at 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. And somebody brought up the issue about executive orders and the White House. If you go to whitehouse.gov, you're going to find the executive orders. In the briefing room there, Phyllis, I see there were 8 executive orders that they have logged on that were signed during the month of May alone. And you can certainly see the volumes, the high volume of executive orders that have come forth from this administration.
That's right, and I've just been writing about one today, which will go up on my website, eaglefarm.org, tomorrow or the next day. And Obama does have the right to create executive orders, but he doesn't have the right to do anything illegal with them. Mm-hmm. And this latest one, which puts us in a bind to set up a working group to harmonize our regulations with other countries in the world, is, I think, beyond his power or right to do it. Are we going to harmonize with China? You know, China just sent us some dog food that poisoned 1,000 of our dogs in this country, and China has sent us thousands of counterfeit parts for our military equipment. And we want to harmonize with people who are producing things like that? We don't want to be harmonized. And this regulatory thing is being run by Cass Sunstein. You remember him?
Oh, yes.
He's the one who thinks dogs ought to have lawyers.
Yeah.
Bow wow.
Let's go to the state of Washington. Aaron, you're on the air.
Fuel economy, fuel and what the economy is doing, and how is this going to change it?
I'm not following the your question here, Aaron.
Well, this treaty,
the Law of the Sea Treaty,
Yeah. Now, the oil companies are voting for it. Why is that going to affect fuel prices?
Well, I don't know, and I'm sure anybody knows the answer to that question. But they somehow think they're going to get something out of it. But I really think they're going to be mistaken about that, because if they drill anything and bring up anything out of the ground under the sea, they're going to have to pay a hefty tax to the UN bureaucrats who did nothing except try to impede what they're doing. And then the environmentalist lawyers may be suing them for destroying some of our wildlife or whatever. So I think it's a dangerous bill all the way around.
Yeah, if we're concerned about fuel prices, one of the things we could do is have the present administration lift their embargoes here on drilling across our land, Phyllis, and
on U.S. property, right?
Yeah, and allow that Keystone Pipeline to go through, and on that list goes.
That's right, because we have, people who have looked into it say we, the United States, and property we already own, have got enough energy for the next 400 years. We don't need to pay these people we hate in other countries or who hate us. I shouldn't say we hate them. We don't hate anybody. But they sure do hate us.
From Washington, we're going to the state of Texas. And Edie, you're on the air. Or Eddie, I'm sorry.
Yes. My question is, how do we apply the principle of morality to the situation? Because that seems to be the lacking thing in our society.
Well, a lot of people object to bringing in that factor, but I really believe we can solve and address most of these problems by making it comply with the U.S. Constitution as it was written by the framers and not the way the liberals wish it had been rewritten.
To Judy. Go ahead. You're on the air, Judy.
Yes. Good afternoon. First of all, I called my senators and asked them to write me back as to what they did decide and why. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is that I am impressed Ms. Schlafly, at the load of information that you've given here today, and I am very excited about much more general than just the UN situation, but all across the board. And I just want to tell you, God bless you, and God bless VCY America.
Well, thank you, and I hope you keep up with me on the website, eaglefarm.org. I have a monthly newsletter, the Phyllis Schlafly Report, now in its 45th year.
And
Judy,
it's a big $20 to subscribe.
God bless you all.
Judy, you're calling from Wisconsin. Senator Ron Johnson has signed on to the letter in opposition to this treaty. There is no such statement, though, from Senator Herb Kohl.
That's correct, but we're working on it. God is bigger.
He sure is. Thank you, Judy. Appreciate your call. And appreciate all of it. We won't have time for any further calls today, but Phyllis, we've got about 90 seconds left. But go ahead and share what may be on your heart at this time.
Well, we assigned the topic of the law of the sea to this program, and it is a very dangerous treaty, more dangerous than most of the UN treaties, and it would take away part of our sovereignty. It would cost us a lot of money and our wealth, and I urge you to tell your U.S. senators to vote no on the law of the sea treaty.
Folks, you can contact your two U.S. senators with your thoughts on the issue at 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. You can also communicate to them through the Senate's website at senate.gov. Very easy access there to see how to email your senators as well. That's senate.gov. Phyllis, we appreciate you being with us today. And for those who'd like more information about Eagle Forum, give us again the website and the contact information there.
eagleforum.org. And you can subscribe to the Phyllis Schlafly Report for $20 a year, the best bargain in print.
eagleforum.org. Phyllis, thank you so much for continuing to stay on the front lines of the battle.
Thank you, Jim. Have a good day.
Bye-bye now. That was Phyllis Schlafly with us from Eagle Forum, the Law of the Sea Treaty, folks, again, coming back up through the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and at any given point could come before the full U.S. Senate, whether it's now, before the November election, or as a lame duck session. You can contact your senators at 202-224-3121 with your thoughts on the issue. Thanks for joining us today on Crosstalk.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Take Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. Or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.